Hi, I'm Marc Cunningham with Grace Property Management. What do you think about this statement? Is it wise? Does it even make sense? Why in the world would you not want to pre-advertise a property? Well, let me tell you what just happened to us, because our policy is to not pre-advertise properties until they're 100% rent ready. About a week ago, we broke that policy. We tried to do a favor to an owner because this owner said, hey, I need this thing rented quickly. I know it's not quite rent ready, but go ahead and advertise it now. So we walked the property and it was a mess. And we said, no, we will not advertise this property. We can't show it like this. It looks terrible. He said, fine, I'll send my vendor in. I'll get a couple necessary things done and then pre-advertise it and let's get this thing filled. We said, okay. He sent his vendor in there. The vendor called us and said, I'm 90% done. Go ahead and start advertising and showing the property, which we did. Tenant came into the property. Property was about 90% rent ready. And the vendor said to the tenant, hey, I'm still going to be getting XYZ done. I'm fixing this cabinet door. I'm restaining the cupboards. I'm doing all these things. It'll be great and ready for you when you move in. Great, Mr. Applicant says. Everybody's happy until the tenant moves in, only to discover that the vendor either didn't finish the things at all or didn't do them to their level of expectation. And it created a huge problem because every time we step outside of this rule, something like that happens. We get bit. Here's the problem. When you pre-advertise a property and you show it before it is rent ready, you can't show a finished product. See, ideally, you want to be able to show a product that is ready to go, that is finished, because applicants don't have good imaginations. They can't imagine what the property is going to look like with different color paint on the walls, or with different color carpet, or with the ex-tenant's Christmas tree out of the living room. They just can't imagine that. So that's a problem number one. Now, this leads to the next problem, which is it creates unmet expectations. At best, the tenant's going to imagine property the way you explain it to them, with new paint and new carpet and refinished cupboards. They're going to imagine that in their mind. Now, what's the likelihood that the actual work done is going to meet the expectations the tenant has? It's slim. It's very slim. Because at best, the tenant will call you upon move-in and say, hey, you told me this property was going to be painted cream color. You say, yes, it was painted. It is cream color. The tenant says, no. This is not a cream color. This is more of a mauve color. And if I knew it was going to be cream color, there's no way I would have rented this property. And now you're shaking your head and thinking, is this really happening? Or you say, tenant says, hey, you told me these carpets were going to be cleaned. Well, they have been cleaned. Well, they don't look clean to me, right? These types of things happen because it creates unmet expectations. And this leads to the third problem, which is it's a bad first impression. The tenant who's just moved in is now a little bit mad. This is the time that you want the tenant to be happiest. They're just moving in. We don't want bad first impressions, and this can potentially create that. So ideally, what you want to be able to say when you show a property is, hey, what you see is what you get. So Mr. Applicant, if you don't like the color of the walls, I'm sorry, these are the colors of the walls. If you don't like the finish on the cupboards, I'm sorry, these are what the cupboards look like. What you see is what you get. This is such a powerful statement to be able to diffuse potential situations before they arise. Now, here's the most common objection, right? We'll say, well, Mark, that's great, but won't that lead to longer vacancies? And potentially, yes. The property may sit vacant for a few extra days, but in my view, that's well worth the few dollars in lost rent to offset all the problems, all the trouble that you have by trying to immediately move in a tenant. You try to pre-advertise the property as soon as you get the notice to vacate from the prior tenants and try to get to where there's 0 days vacant. In an ideal world, that's beautiful, but that's just not realistic. It's much more realistic, it's much more practical, and it's in the owner's best interest, we believe, to do it this way. So yes, the owner's property may sit vacant for a couple extra days while you prepare the property for rent. It may cost the owners a few extra dollars of vacancy. However, the owner now has a tenant coming in that's happier. They have realistic expectations of what the property is. It's going to make the process better for you, better for the applicant, and better for the property owner. So a couple pieces of guidance around this. Number one, if you're going to pre-advertise, and you can still pre-advertise, but simply don't show until it's ready. So pre-advertise with coming soon. So when you get a notice to vacate from an ex-tenant or from a vacating tenant, go ahead, put the property on your website, show your pictures, do everything, but put coming soon on the property and leave coming soon on the property until it is 100% rent ready. And then guidance number two, don't show that property until it's 100% rent ready. You just don't want to do that. Make this part of your policy. Consider this. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. We've tried it both ways. We've found this works best for us on showing properties, keeping applicants happy, keeping owners happy, keeping everybody happy. And that's one of the big goals in the property management space. Now, before I sign off here, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you, if you haven't checked out our system stuff in a while, click on under the products tab under our systems. We have a new video on there. The video is a segment of a class that I did at our last Pulling Back the Curtain event on systems. And it's just a few minutes, kind of an introduction to the concept of systems. How are the systems in your business? Are they tight? Do you even have a roadmap for your systems? Watch that video if you haven't in a while. Download our free sample system manuals. You can download those for free. We've recently updated those, every one of those. We have a new system manual in there, a new account specialist system manual. It goes through the training of how to work with your BDM or your new account person, what we do on ours, our actual system manual that way. If you've purchased our system manual products in the past, remember, it's free updates forever. So the update ones that we have on the site now, you have access to those. But check out that video. Get your systems in place for this next year. You will not regret doing that. And part of the systems is this, not showing properties until they're rent ready. I wish you success.